It was Locked On Guardians night at the Lake County Captains. And while they picked up a win, unfortunately, the Cleveland Guardians lost to the Ghost of Guardians past. We're going to get into all of it, as well as a huge promotion on today's Locked On Guardians.
Tanner Bobby the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the solo show today. Justin was away. I get to play. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play 5. Thank you to everyone who did show up and join Justin. I hope everyone had a fantastic time with me living in a different area. I could not show up. We'll talk a little bit about the game later. We have a big promotion to talk about. We have one of the weirdest stories. It doesn't directly involve the Guardians, so we got to talk about that. All of that to get into. And we're going to bring out some oldies and goodies if you've missed things like box score baseball, which I haven't done in so long. I've kind of forgotten some of the rules. So make sure you leave some comments. For those who do not know me, and for those who do not like it, you can skip ahead about 30 seconds. I am Jeff Ellis, the host of Locked On Guardians, have been since the inception of the Locked On MLB network. One of the first hosts that ever came on to talk baseball over here. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7. 4 yesterday was for the 4 infield RBIs with Lane Thomas. I'd never seen it before. And today, I am your 20th favorite blogger for every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist. So go ahead, put your guesses in the comments below. I get a lot of requests. For those who do not know, who maybe joined when Justin came on, which is a lot of people, we have more than tripled our subscription base since then. I was looking back, used to average about 500 an episode back in those days. Now, when we don't clear 1,000, Justin and I are sad. So thank you to everyone, again, who is joining us and helping this Locked On Guardians podcast continue to grow. You are all a part of the Locked On Guardians family, and we appreciate all of you. But to get back into it, I used to do this. I used to do previews, and then I would also do box score bingo. And people have been clamoring for it. I didn't realize how much people liked it. The problem is I was trying to remember. I believe back in the day, I was looking at about for every 4 base runners, or maybe I think it was every 3 base runners a run, because you assume that something can handle on the bases. So let's go to this one. Let's just get into it. This is going to be a bit of actually, no, that's segment 2. What am I doing? I'm going out of order here. So excited to give people what they want. I forgot my order. I have it all here, though. We got to talk Andrew Walters first, because this has been one of our biggest debate points throughout the year. It was like, how much longer until they're going to call him up? And then it was, AAA is kind of caught up to him. Is he going to get called up? And then it was, he has figured out AAA. Will they call him up this year? Will they get that clock going? And with the ever cutting of Anthony Ghost, they had an open 40-man spot, and they just figured it was time to go to Walters. And, for those who missed it, in his debut today, he pitched, I want to make sure I get everything correctly, 1 inning. He allowed 1 run unearned on 1 walk and no strikeouts. He is a guy with a 70, 75 grade fastball. In college, the command was a 60. It's closer to 45, 50 now. And he didn't really show his slider a whole lot in college. It's an above average pitch, but he is essentially just dominated since the minute he hit the ground with Cleveland. He started in AA this year, and he was up to AAA, and you can kind of look at his numbers. It's like, why is his FIP, mediocre, and why is his walk rate there? It's because he struggled with command when he first got there, and it's a small sample size because he's a reliever. So a bad few weeks can really throw it off. You have to look at the fact that essentially after that slow start, he went a month and had 1 outing where he gave up a run, and he stopped walking guys, and he continued to strike them out. And I wish I could tell you the episode. Maybe someone could put in the comments below. Like Justin talked about this earlier in the year when he interviewed, I want to say Rob Serfolio. I could be wrong there as well, where they were essentially talking about like that they wanted to get Andrew Walters used to a role that he could be used as a player for vote. Like the plan was to get him up to the majors this year. That was always the plan. At points, it looked like maybe it wasn't going to work, but he is up. He should be here to stay. A lot of people were asking, he can be put on the playoff roster because that rule changed. It's not that you have to be up, before September. It's, when they shorten the 40-man roster in September, it's just you have to be with the organization. So he was with the organization then. So he could be added to the roster, and frankly, probably should be. The stuff is that good. In terms of pure ceiling with his pitches, I think he's up there with Cade Smith for the highest ceiling. Hunter Gaddis has been fantastic. Well, I'm gonna go on a limb. I think Walters has a chance to have the highest ceiling of Gaddis, Smith, and himself. I really believe in him being that good. The one big bugaboo at this point in time is the fact that he has not pitched on back-to-back games. Hopefully, we can maybe see some of that up here. We'll talk about, like I said, a little bit more about the game later on. But this is an exciting addition because of how good he has been. This gives him, about half a month. We have seen, like I brought up, earlier this week, Ryan Kirkring, I believe, was brought up in a similar situation. And it also means teams aren't going to be as familiar with him. He's going to get his feet wet, and he's going to be a weapon. And I really hope he makes this team's postseason roster. Even if it does, it's like, who do you take off, I guess, becomes the question at that point in time. Like, you're going to pull off 2 pitchers from this team, and you hope you'll have Alex Cobb. For those who missed it, maybe I buried the lead here. Alex Cobb went to the 50-day DL. It's kind of a paper move because he hasn't pitched in so long. It's not really that many more days. Like, you can essentially put him back to his last start and do that. So it's not such a big deal. When you're going into the postseason, you're assuming 4 starters, 9 relievers. Right now, it is probably going to be like Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee. I don't know why I'm saying this. Clearly not in order. Matthew Boyd and Ben Lively. Till we know that Cobb can be healthy. If Cobb is healthy, then maybe you kick Lively into that relief role, long man, and then you've got, Class A, Gaddis, Smith, Heron are your easy choices. And right now you have Sandlin, Walters. I think Morgan should be an easy choice. Sabrowski and Avila. Avila didn't have the best night, but I think he is also in there. I don't know if you carry Sabrowski. I still don't think you carry Sandlin. He's just been too inconsistent. Sorry to everydayer L. Sorry. It's you're like, is it something about maybe Knowles go? Sorry, bud. I can picture your face and I can't get your name right now. But the nice thing too, though, is to have that option where it's a little bit hard. Like, this team is all going to be about getting through 2 turns through a team's lineup and then going to that pen. So Walters gives you another dynamic pen arm, and I really do think he is going to carve a role for himself at the back of the pen. Which, I mean, we tend to forget Heron. He's pitching better of late, and he's been really good most of the year. And then you got the big 3. Morgan has been really good in the second half. There's a lot of reasons to think you add Walters to the mix, that this bullpen could become a historic looking one for the postseason. And anytime you want to add out this team, yes, did they get enough offense tonight to win? No. And that's always going to be a concern with some of the inconsistencies. But this bullpen is going to give them a fighting chance in the postseason. This bullpen, and especially because Walters just gives you another legit back end arm. Like, I've been Pedro Avila's biggest defender, but if I have to pick between Avila and Walters for the postseason, I'm going Walters because the ceiling is so much higher. What he can do is so much higher. Now, is he also riskier? Absolutely. Like, here's a guy who he may not be very good. We'll have to see. He struggled in adjusting to AAA. Maybe he'll struggle a bit in the adjustment here. We'll have to watch and see. That's going to be one of the things. Development is not a straight line. A lot of players have ups, have downs, and figure it out. Look at Hunter Gaddis, right? Like, he was terrible as a starter, went down, was not even really considered at points to get called back up to pitch for this team. And now he's one of the most invaluable relievers in a top 10 reliever in the American League. They have three, I think, top 7 relievers right now in the American League by WAR. So it's fantastic. And I say that again, because again, to me, Walter's name should be in that group sooner rather than later. And then just, I can't recall a team having 4 guys like that. That is just unbelievable. Second round pick a year ago, I did not keep him in my shadow draft because I wanted to get Whitman from Kent State. I wanted to save a little bit more money so I could go get Cooper Pratt. We'll have to judge that in a few years, how wrong I am. The Guardians always do better than my shadow drafts outside of, I think, 1 year. So I know I have to finish this year's shadow draft. I will get that up there. But we got to talk about the game itself. There's a lot to talk about there. We got to talk about what Justin got to see in Lake County. We also have to talk about one of the weirdest stories of the year. It doesn't involve the Guardians, but it is just a really weird story. So stay tuned for all of that on today's Locked On Guardians. Let's talk about Tonal. what's the hardest thing about exercise? Well, often it's the exercise itself, but the other thing is consistency. From my personal perspective, I had 2 straight years where every single day I got in the exercise bike for about an hour and a half. It wasn't done until I got, past 800 or 1,000 calories burned. And it was before kids. So I had that ability to be consistent, to have that time. And that's what Tonal wants to bring you. They want to help you have that consistency because everyone struggles with that. And then once you're like me and you miss it a day here, a day there, it just mounts. And now I've been, all summer, I stared at my exercise bike, something I used to be glued to. And now I never use it. It just sits in the corner. And that's why, Tonal is going to help you out because it's the world's smartest and most effective strength training program. It helps you get stronger. And like everything that's the wave of the future, it's powered by AI. Tonal learns with every rep, so it can deliver workouts personalized for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, it uses adaptive digital weights in order to advance your training techniques. It's like having a personal trainer at home. It's going to optimize every workout. You're not going to get bored like I did on the bike. You're going to keep going. So right now, Tonal offers our listeners $200. That's huge savings off Tonal purchases with the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 20. Sam, so used to 20. It's unusual when they give you $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. And make sure to check out our buddy Sully. Love Sully. Another OG person. Been here since the start. You can check him out over on the Locked On MLB podcast. Is a second listen today. One of the great people in this network. One of my favorite people. Go check out Sully today. Let's talk about this game. Let's give you the box score bingo as promised. So we got to see Walters pitch. Gavin Williams, it wasn't a bad start, but man, it was just, he couldn't put guys away. Like, it was a solid start. I'm not going to complain, but it could have been an awesome start. He struggled with putting guys away throughout. And then, who else out there was listening to this broadcast? They were all about Gavin Williams's curveball. And I don't know if that's really the answer for him as much as they wanted to say it was the answer for him. But then again, Adam Wainwright knows more about baseball than I will ever know. He's really focused on that curveball. And the interesting thing is this year, his curveball, I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers, is arguably his worst pitch. The cut. Now, they did also mention his cutter. His cutter has been his most effective pitch this year by run value, but his four seam and his curveball aren't there. That slider was so good a year ago, and it's just, we're basically never seeing it. He's afraid to throw that, or he can't grip it, or for whatever reason. Going and looking at his Savant page right now, he's got negative pitching value on Savant. All of his fastball, breaking ball, off speed have negative values. The only areas he is in the red are fastball velocity, K percentage, barrels, and extension. Again, extension. These, do people still say that anymore? Find someone to love you as much as the Guardians love extension, but there's a good reason to love extension. Talked about that with Cantillo earlier this week. You can go back and listen for more talk on extension. Austin Peterson, we can get a chance to talk to on yesterday's show. Had another really good out, another big time extension guy. But Williams was good enough, but it just felt like me. And, comment below. Am I wrong? Because I could be wrong. I am doing a million things at night, and sometimes I am not locked in or locked on the game as much as I should be. So, but it felt like he just couldn't put guys away. Sobrowski is spectacular, came in, did his job, and was great. It's hard to argue with anything that dude's done since he's been called out. Shout out to Everydayer Nunzio, who's been a big fan of Sobrowski for a while. I don't know if he's going to keep this up. I didn't expect him to still be here, but at the same time, hey, fantastic. He has been solid. Vila has been really good. This game got his ERA up over 4. It was not his best performance. They tried to get a little bit more out of him. He just wasn't as sharp. And then Walters, he had the walk, and then Bo was just not good at throwing to begin with. And there's been a lot of those pitches. And again, you can correct me in the comments below, but I feel like we're seeing a lot of games where Bo Naylor just puts it into the outfield and they get an extra base, which then allowed them, Bo Naylor manufactured the run for Tampa in that inning, but who cares? Because Cleveland only had 2 runs in this one. And that's what stinks, because Brian Pepio got taken out quick. He was not long for this game. I talked about Guardians, or Ghost of Guardians past, Cole Sulser, former Guardian, 3 perfect innings. They were touching up Pepio. They go to Sulser, and it's just change up city. They can't touch him. And, that's all she wrote. And Cole is a guy that both Tampa and Baltimore were really intrigued by, but he was never good enough to really hold on to his spot. He's kind of been an up and down player throughout his career, but he is just fastball change, a little bit of cutter, good extension. And Cleveland just couldn't touch him. He gave up, I believe, 1 walk in 3 innings. And what can I say? I'll tell you what I can say. Lane Thomas, 15 straight games with doing something. Shout out to the Selby's Godcast, who someone told me they said something very kind about me tracking it on the show. Yeah, I know we also struck out 3 times. And he had that throw in on the 1 run. Everything looked so good, and then it hit the grass. I don't know how that happened, and then it got away, and then it was a bad throw. Was that Bo then on the bad throw, allowing the runner to advance? It was a weird situation there. But Lane Thomas still, he knocked in, was the first run of the game with an RBI double. And then, big kudos as well to Stephen Kwan. Part of the box score bingo in the day was like, who got on base twice in a game? I believe it was only Kwan in this one. They just didn't have a lot of play. No, Rocchio. Rocchio had 2 walks, and Rocchio, again, for as much as I've been down on Rocchio, he's performing better of late. Offensively, he's doing some things. We'll see if he can keep it up. Bo is kind of in a struggle. Jose has been in a kind of a funk of late as well. He did end up scoring a run on that Lane Thomas hit, but he's been a sub 700 OPS over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Jimenez had came up with a big RBI, that second one in here, but they just didn't do enough. Kwan, really positive. Like, I will take a loss if it means Kwan's, getting on track, because we need Kwan to be back to on track. We can't have the guy who can't hit 200 leading the top of this lineup. And again, it's nice to see Lane Thomas do something. He's been the RBI machine for this team, and credit to Rocchio. If I was doing, well, let's do box score bingo, and then we'll do 3 stars of the game, just to go really old school for everyone out there who's been asking for this. Again, I was kind of shocked by how many people were excited when I mentioned I should do it. So 5 hits for Cleveland. They also ended up with 4 walks. So that's 9 opportunities there. An error on the other side means 10 opportunities. So make sure I didn't miss any hit by pitches. So Cleveland had 10 opportunities. That's about 3 runs. Typically, they had 2 today. So they underperformed. Tampa, on the other side, had 10 hits and 4 walks. That's 14. And 2 errors by Cleveland. That's 16 opportunities. That's about 5 runs. That's what they got. So, yes, Cleveland should have lost this game, and they did lose this game. It knocks their lead in the Central down to 4 games, which, again, it's still a 4-game lead. It's not act like, and the lead, and it's been dashed to heck. No, it's still a really solid 4-game lead. This week, FanGraphs gave Cleveland's chance to make the postseason to 100%. They're going to be in the postseason no matter what. They're going to be in the postseason, every other year for the last 4 years, right? No, I guess every other year for the last, 4 years. God, you wish you could say that about other sports teams in Cleveland, with how much Cleveland is able to make it. I still think they're going to win the Central Division. But, 3 stars of the game. Kwan is easy for having reached base 3 times. I don't know if I can give it to Thomas. The one thing I'll say is, the throwing error stunk. I don't know how much that ended up costing them because of the fact he has a good arm. Yeah, the base runner advanced, but I think I'll still give it to him because he had the only extra base hit in the game as well for Cleveland, and that's another issue. I forgot about Jimenez getting picked off after he was positive. And let's give it to Sprousky. He came out in not the easiest situation with some guys on with Gavin, and he pitched well. He got himself out of that situation, and he played well. Every other pitcher in this game gave up a run. And like I said, there were no other extra base hits. No one reached base twice outside of Rocchio. So, Rocchio would be the runner-up. But I think it's got to be Thomas, Sabrowski, and Kwani in this for your 3 stars. It stinks. They're 84-63, 21 games over 500. Second best record in the American League still, I believe. At least they should be. And I just wish I wish they get taken care of business. This is a beat up Tampa bullpen. There's a lot of guys who are just kind of there because Richard Lovelady has been cut by half of Major League Baseball at this point. It feels like I really loved him coming up with the Royals. It has not worked out. But they had to really overuse their bullpen. They had to sit back and dig deep. And those are the games you want to win. You want to take care of business and win those games. And Cleveland wasn't able to, unfortunately. When we come back, we're going to dive into a little bit of the Lake County Captains game where Justin was this evening. We also, again, I have to talk about one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard about. It's really interesting. And look, my co-host is joining me. So I hope you will continue to join me here on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Let's talk about the good people who are PrizePicks. They have been with us all season, like all of you out there. And right now, PrizePicks is giving away some money and they're giving away some wins. How are they giving away money? Well, we'll get to that in a bit. But first, how they're giving away wins. Listen, Caleb Williams did not have the debut anyone wanted, but anyone who chose him to throw more than one passing yard still won. And with PrizePicks, you're going to pick more or less on 2 to 6 stat categories. In the entire month of September, one of those choices is Caleb Williams, 1 yard. That's an auto win. It is as simple as that. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks, which means you only need 3 because one of them is being given to you for free this month. And right now, they invented Flex Play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly. There's the free money part when you play 5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, let's jump over to our good friends over at FanDuel, one of our longest sponsors. That makes them one of my favorites. We've been with us a long time. Look, Cinnamon thinks they're great too. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. You want to tell them about Cinnamon? You want to take over here? Yeah, she does. America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And we talked about before, I still think right now, Jose Ramirez is 40-40 chase. You want to bet the under. With his struggles, I do think he is kind of, I think he's cognizant of 40-40. I think he wants it, and I think that's affecting his play a little. So right now, if you agree with me, and if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all Sunday 9:15 pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting on Thursday, starting the day I'm recording, 9/12. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book. So I believe we don't know who that the captains are going to face in the Midwest League Championship game. They won both games. If you were joining Justin tonight, you got to see Travis Hosanna hit an absolute moonshot in this game. And what's fun right now, too, you look at Lake County, like we know Baz is this team's #1 prospect. Angel Janau, and Baz had 2 hits, including that huge moonshot home run. He batted leadoff. For all the concerns about him, he's right now rocking a 286 average in a OPS of 1.089. That might just be in the postseason, but still, he figured out the level. Angel Janau had 2 walks in this one, also a top 5 prospect. Wilfredo Antunez is a guy Justin's been warming to. He hit 3rd, and he's a guy that eventually we're going to have to talk about when we talk about 40-man discussion. Alex Mooney is a top 20 prospect. Was next. Then you got Jake Fox in the lineup, who had a home run tonight. Ralphie Velasquez, who's another top 5 prospects. That's 3 of your top 5 prospects. Jacob Kozert, who's somewhere in the top 20. Matt Collado. And then I think Jonah Evankula is a sleeper. I will say his younger brother. His younger brother just had a really impressive cape as a freshman going into his sophomore year. Pitching in this one, Dylan DeLuca is a guy who just hasn't been healthy, and I would love to see him get more opportunities. It wasn't his best game, but I mentioned how I kind of like Jay Driver. He performed well. Carter Spivey is an older player at ECU. They signed, I believe, out of the independent leagues. I don't know what his future is, but he's performed well in the minors, has some good statistics. And, most importantly, they won. Um, Winning advances, more chances to see. I don't know if they're going to try to do some kind of event. I'm sure Justin's going to go out to cover one of those Midwest League championship games. But, if you're not that interested in it, at least do yourself a favor. Go track down that Bazana home run. Because, boy, did he hit the snot out of that one. So let's talk. Okay, let's not talk about cattail. Let's talk about this crazy story that we have to discuss because I've never seen anything like this. Derek Bender, who was the guy that Justin and I both kind of liked last year coming out of the Cape, he had a really good Cape. Coastal Carolina guy. That's a good program. Huge power numbers in college. Was a catcher that none of us thought could catch. Also struck out probably too much. His sophomore year was better than his junior year by some, less homer. He had a higher batting average. He had a higher slugging. He had less home runs his junior year. And that's why he went in the 6th round. He got basically 300,000 in the 6th round, which is about slot. Cold weather guy who, again, in the Cape, he was one of the best hitters in the Cape in 2023. So Justin and I thought, hey, maybe there's a chance Cleveland will take a gamble on him. And they didn't. I wonder if they didn't because they had some sense that he was, we talked about how their draft is all about avoiding the knuckleheads. Derek Bender just got cut, even though he was a 6th round draft pick a few weeks ago, because in one of the last games of the season, he tipped a bunch of pitches to the opposing team because he didn't want to play any more games. He didn't want to go to the postseason. He wanted his season to be done. Well, his career might be done now. Like, that's just something you don't do because postseason is 2-3 more games. It's an added week, maybe 2. And your teammates, there are guys who care about this. There are guys who, if they win and they get a ring from this, that might be the only ring they get. And I don't know if it works that way in low A, but I mean, I think you get some. I remember in double A, there's talk of at least some kind of level of representation back when I remember asking Jan Gomes if if he would want the championship ring in double A because he was down there, and he's like, yeah, I would. Like, and he wasn't joking. Like, he was full serious at the time. He's like, is that a thing? I go, I don't know. It was not me. It was Brad Bornell, great writer at the Akron Beacon Journal. But he asked him, and then he told me that. I got confused for a second. So credit to Brad. Really great dude. He spent a lot of time with down in Akron. But that aside, like, guys work. Guys are competitive. And if you're tipping pitches, like, I mean, that means that final start, that pitcher is getting, his numbers are getting affected, and you're affecting potentially his value. Like, how much can one game do? One game can do some. That can shift things. So the opposing team basically reported to their manager. We're very confused by the whole thing. They reported to the Twins, and the Twins cut Bender. And before you're like, wow, he's a 6th round pick, is available for free. Do you want a guy who would hurt his, like, people aren't going to want to play with him. Like, he hurt his pitcher. He hurt him statistically. That stuff can come back to affect him. He hurt his team because he didn't want to play for another week. Like, that is a crazy story. But in spite of that, I still saw people who were like, oh, hey, not Cleveland fans, but other fan bases when I tweet about this, that they should go and try and get him. And it's like, I can't understand a world where you want Derek Bender after that. It's a guy who's that non-competitive that he is more interested in an extra week off than, all the things that go with competition. I still can't. It's one of the weirdest stories I'm ever going to see. And he was terrible in low A, which is not a good sign for a college player, who was older than the level. So maybe he read the writing on the wall. But it feels like this was a guy who just didn't want to play baseball. Twins aren't going to try to get back their signing bonus, and they paid $300,000, and he is his career is going to be done. It's let me know if you've ever heard of anything like that. Put it in the comments below. So there's just a little bit of time left. So I'm going to kind of keep it under 32. These solo shows are a little bit harder to do just in terms of keeping your voice, keeping your train of thought, and keeping everything going. Again, I want to give a thank you to everyone who showed up and hung out with Justin today. The rest of this Tampa series, with how deep they had to use their bullpen, it should benefit Cleveland in the rest of these games. We'll have to see who lines up what occurs overall. I still think Cleveland has a very good chance to split this series, and that's, to me, that's all you're asking them to do, which means winning 2 of the next 3. But it would have been nice to get that today. With Gavin's inconsistency, I wasn't necessarily betting on it. Tanner tomorrow is one of those that I thought they have a strong chance against. And Saturday, Tyler Alexander is the type of lefty that this team has beat up this year. They've been very good against lefties. So I really feel Friday and Saturday are the games to win, with Sunday and Thursday since the beginning being the ones that are the most difficult. And then, you got the Twins and the Cardinals coming up after this. So got to keep playing competitive baseball. You don't want this lead to shrink away. I was looking at some minor league stats today. We'll end the show with some of these. I just thought it was kind of interesting that I was looking at who's had the most plate appearances in the minor leagues this year. It's Miles Straw, who had almost identical weighted runs created plus in AAA as he did in the majors. That's apparently his level. Second most, Jonathan Rodriguez. I know, actually, I was wrong in that. This didn't shift. Sorry. Miles Straw has the third most plate appearances. Juan Brito is number 1 at 6'10" already. Angels are now 2 and Miles Straw 3. That's some 6'10". That can't be right. I feel like that's got to be an error. How can he already have 610 for Juan Brito this year? In terms of overall production, Cooper Ingles' power has evaporated a bit as he's moved up. CJ Kayfus has had some health stuff. So again, you see kind of Angel Janao standing out for this team. It is interesting just how much more interesting the pitching is rather than the hitting. And people have been bringing up the 40-man offseason. I don't have the time to talk about who might get cut, who's going to stay, all of that fun jive. But my best guess right now, who I think, Doug Nikhazy and Ryan Webb are players you are going to add to this roster because of Rule 5 considerations. And after that, I don't think there's anyone else who I really have that is an absolute slam dunk. I think Trenton Denholm has an interesting case to be made. That, a lot of people like to talk about a lot of players, and unfortunately, just a lot of guys have not kind of stepped up from their draft classes and shown up. It's like Petey Halpin has been strictly average again this year. I've had people talk about him. Tommy Mace he's best, I think, a quad A guy. Petey Halpin's got a 104 weighted runs created plus while repeating AA. That's not what you want to see. There's just not a lot of players that stand out. I feel like I'm forgetting one other guy. Maybe it's Janao, right? Is that the one guy who's in the lower levels that needs to be added this offseason? No, it's not. He's in 25. I feel like there's someone I'm forgetting as I do this off the top of my head who's a very young player. But since I can't actually find that player right now, it feels like Webb and Nikhazy right now. Oh, Franco Alamon. That's probably it. That's a third player. And Alamon and Enright, I just wish those dudes had been healthy enough to be able to see what they could do. It's not been a great year for Tanner Burns. He wasn't selected after not being protected last year when he had a better year in AA. It's been a bad year in AAA. His command has completely left him. He's not a guy they're going to protect. So I think it's really 3 players. And then when you look at this team overall, we'll go much more in depth in this in the offseason. But right now, I don't believe Carrasco's on the 15-day disabled list. So there's one. And then Cobb and Boyd are free agents. There's 3. James Karajek is currently on the 60-day. So it doesn't matter, but he's going to be let go. The only other point in this is that Trevor Stephan will have to be added back on. So I mentioned those 3 there. You got to add Stephan back on, and that's kind of your main 4. Hedgie is also a free agent. They might bring him back later, but there's your 4 spots for 4 guys. It just comes down to then the Sam Hedges debate that we brought up on the show earlier this week. Justin brought up a good point. There's a chance he is designated for assignment at the end of the year. So we'll have to wait and see. So hopefully I answered your question about the 40-man to a small degree. Have your debates below. Players I'm forgetting. Very good chance I am. Who I need to talk about. Who I am missing. Outside of Justin. Like I need to do some editing and have a picture pop up and just, show that I'm missing, since sometimes people don't seem to understand. We are indeed real life friends, and that is what makes this show fun Thank you all again for joining us this week, being a part of the Locked On Guardians team. Thank you to all of our everydayers. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining me on the solo show. Tell me what parts of the old school format you liked and did not like. Thank you all again, and go Guardians, go.